projects on speed, where they're just trying to build what angriest, loudest customer says. And for a lot of teams, this can also lead to a lot of burnout themselves. But when I first joined, this fast and furious pace, it was fun, but it wasn't what I was comfortable with. And naturally, I would lean into my analytical nature from oil and gas, right? I would take the data, make correlations, build metrics, things that I would naturally do in oil and gas. And I found that what I found was people love this, right? They were so used to just thinking about the next thing that they didn't have time to step back and think about what was really going on. And this different way of thinking was really, really welcomed. Even today, I do find myself being that analytical thinker. I'm the one that really slows things down when things always feel hectic, chaotic. And to me, people do appreciate things to go slower when things can, seem like they don't have any sense of direction. And to me, this is kind of where I found my place, right? And this is where I found, I can really balance things out in technology. But for me as well, I also have my own learnings that always not over-index on the analytical side, because sometimes in technology, you do need to make decisions with your heart as well. My second point here is that energy professionals, we don't shy away from hard problems. And when you think about what the oil and gas industry has achieved, and anything in energy in general, it's actually incredible, right? Like anything from giving us X-ray vision underground to powering today's modern way of life. We are here today with lights because of this industry. And anyone that has worked in oil and gas, you have always been a part of powering today's modern day. It's actually incredible what you have achieved. In technology terms, I like to call it as oil and gas has a product market fit with every single person on this earth, right? There will never, ever be a shortage of that. However, in tech, to make technology successful, you always need to focus, right? There's a saying that if you try to build technology for everyone, you end up building for no one. And because of that, your impact in technology might not be as big as what you have thought in oil and gas, right? Like your impact and your budgets will probably be scaled down by a factor of 10. But that does not prevent you from thinking bigger about the harder problems. And because you know what it's like, right, to solve harder problems, it does not prevent you from just looking at your job and thinking about how to make this harder and make more impact. For myself, when I first went to tech, I would call myself what's called a SQL monkey, right? I would write code to answer questions. So people would come to me and say, Adrian, how many customers are using our, these certain bank accounts? How many people are using a mobile app? How many people are like our app, right? And I would just write a bunch of code. But for me, yes, it was technically challenging trying to figure out joins and regular expressions, but I wanted to be more than people's chat GPT, right? What I wanted to do was move mountains with data and scale executive decision at the highest level. And that to me is thinking harder, think about the harder problems and the higher impact. And for the products we built, it wasn't just about releasing the features, it was actually making sure that people could actually use it and it was actually changing the lives around them. People can actually get what they want done. And to me, as an oil and gas professional coming to technology, is just looking for this harder problem to solve and reaching beyond that was what really made me successful. But What I found as well was also having that environment that did enable the success. Because sometimes in oil and gas, I did feel like, I was a little bit trapped, right? My creative soul was chained down. I just yearned for freedom to express myself. And in technology, I found that this wasn't only welcomed, but it is necessary. People need to stretch to be able to innovate. That's what technology is all about. And, having also witnessed other oil and gas professionals transition to technology, I always love seeing this excited fire in their eyes because they're just have bigger ideas. And I just love talking with other oil and gas professionals who have moved into technology. And not just because we have that same background, but because they always have the bigger ideas and they're great executioners as well. And to me, that is where a lot of the fun comes. The third idea is about the resilience that we build in oil and gas. And anyone who has worked in oil and gas would probably attest that it is a pressure cooker environment. And especially if you have worked in the field at some point. So who has worked in the field in oil and gas at some point? Yep, some of you. And yes, there is pressure everywhere, but to me, there's really not any pressure unless we have work in the field. So if you were ever an engineer, they would always tell you that the most valuable experience would be the one that you get in the field. So for me, I worked, that's what I did. I worked in Cold Lake, so it's 3 hours northeast of Edmonton. I worked there for about 4 years. And to me, even today, that is still the most valuable experience of my career. Not in the way that I originally thought it would be, because obviously it did not catapult my oil and gas career, but I do credit a lot of my resilience I have built during that time. Now, one of the jobs I had there was what is called a steam schedule. And this was one of the most pressure cooking jobs I've ever had. And there's essentially two jobs. One, we have to keep our steam generators running at 100%. And two, making sure that we're putting the steam into the ground or making the most money. Now, for the company, if our steam generators were not running at 100%, every minute that was happening, we were not making money. So every time that did not happen, I would get an escalation of phone calls. First from the boss, then from the field superintendent, and then the operations manager, all within a 50-minute time span, wondering what the plan was to get us back up to 100%. That to me is pressure. But moving to tech, I found a lot of parallels with product management program, which essentially almost has similar things. One, keep your development backlog at 100%, because if your devs aren't doing anything, you're not producing value. And the second, making sure you're developing a product in a way that delivers the most value. But there's a lot of pressure in this world as well, and some product managers even call this the hamster wheel of feeding the development machine, right? We always need to make sure that things are. But one of the things that I found very similar between both of these is there is always something to derail your plans, no matter what. In technology, maybe an executive will demand a rush on a feature, right? Maybe a bug comes up in the middle of your sprint, and all of a sudden you're going to take a few more sprints to get things done. Maybe tech debt is slowing down your development, or data quality is preventing you from building a machine learning model. In the oil field, I've had bird strikes knock down our plant. I've had rain wash out our roads so nobody can get onto the paths. Or a rig gets stuck on a well so they can't put steam down there. But for me, there was always this one moment in the field that's tested my resilience like no other. And what happened when I was out there was an explosion happened. But it wasn't your combustion pattern. So what happened was, it was from trap water. And I would never actually thought I would have a wellbore see another wellbore diagram in my life again, but here we are. So for those who don't know what a wellbore looks like, we have a pipe that goes down the middle, and then we have a cement casing around there to hold our pipes in place. And sometimes what happens is you get a trapped pocket of water in there. And this pocket of water is like gunpowder. And when we put steam down there, this heat is like the spark. And what happens here is like this pocket of water turns into steam, right? And what's happening here is like the effect of your instant. So pressure builds and builds and builds until the wellbore collapses like a giant grasping straw. That is what it would look like, right? So this is a camera looking down the wellbore. You would have like a centimeter piece of steel collapsing on itself. That's how much pressure happens here. But what happens if this pocket of water is near the surface? The wellbore doesn't collapse. Instead, you have cement going up. And this is the explosion that happened. So I want you to imagine the geyser. But instead of water, you have cement. Big chunks of cement, dented steel, big enough to cave in human skull. Smaller chunks of cement scattered everywhere like grenade shrapnel. Lucky for me that day, nobody was hurt. But you can imagine when something like that happens, things slow down. And to me, that day, my steam schedule was derailed forever. After that day, every time we had to put wells on steam, we had to make sure that people would do it safely and that they would come home. All the while I was doing with that, I was doing with the phone calls from people wondering why our steams was not at 100%. We were not moving fast enough. To me, since moving to technology, everything does derail the product roadmap, from angry users leaving 4-letter words on your app store to $1 million clients threatening to leave if you don't fix their bug. Nothing has come close to the resilience built during the pressures of having to weigh life and money in the oil field. And to me, that resilience has really helped me deal with a lot of situations in technology and make these decisions with a cooler head. I'm going to end this talk with a quote from Jennifer Lawrence. He says, "Don't ever go into acting class, because if you go into an acting class, you're going to make you act like everyone else." And to me, this really rings true to me, because when I first got laid off, I wanted to hide the fact that I was an oil and gas engineer, because I thought the only skill I had was how to get oil out of the ground. And I had no technology skills. But after being on both sides now, I found out that could not be further from the truth. Sure, I do not use those skills in getting oil out of the ground, like fracture mechanics or completions, but it's the analytical decision making, solving the hard problems that nobody else wanted to do, and the resilience in tough situations. All these were built for me over an entire decade of working in oil and gas. And to me, this is kind of what helped me stand out above those that were classically trained in technology. So, to leave you with anything today is do not run from your past, lean into it to craft your future. And that is basically the advice that I have for you. Thank you.